The Apostle Paul said to the people at Corinth, God has so arranged the body, giving the greater honor to the inferior member, that there may be no dissension within the body, but the members may have the same care for one another. If one member suffers, all suffer together with it. If one member is honored, all rejoice together with it.
To lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex people, we acknowledge the harm that this special session of General Conference inflicted on you. Once again, General Conference has turned you and I into an issue instead of recognizing how essential we are to the body. The church has talked about us rather than with us.
You are precious children of God, and you help us all see a fuller glimpse of the face of God. We have not deserted you. We see you. We stand in solidarity with you.
To United Methodists in our ministries in the West, throughout the spring we will hold informational and listening sessions across our conferences to discuss the outcomes of the General Conference and the future of ministry in the Western jurisdiction. We implore you to take part in these conversations with open minds and prayerful hearts so that the Spirit might guide us all toward whatever comes next.
Our jurisdiction has often led the United Methodist Church in crossing boundaries of inclusion. It elected the first Asian American bishop for the church, the first African American woman bishop, the first Hispanic American woman bishop, the first out gay bishop for the United Methodist Church. A bishop in the West was the first to appoint an out gay clergy person.
We have helped lead the church into border ministries, refugee and immigrant ministries, and ministries that move outside church buildings into communities.
We are committed to full inclusion of all God's children in the body. We will not cut off a part of the body, nor ask it to carry the cross of exclusion for the church any longer.
Our commitment to diversity is deeply rooted in Scripture and our Wesleyan tradition.
We are committed to be a courageous church in mission and ministry, including with our ethnic and marginalized communities.
We prioritize this work. We do it because Jesus prioritized this work. This was the work of Jesus in his life and ministry.
To our theological traditionalists, the Western jurisdiction has grown to understand diversity in its many forms, not as something to be merely tolerated, but as Christ's gift that enriches our discipleship, that enhances our common life as disciples of Jesus Christ. We are committed to making every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. We do not want to be separated from you, but rather we would choose to remain in one church as we continue to strive to come to one body in the one Spirit.
To colleagues across the church who aren't sure where they belong right now, we will continue to be a home for all God's people gathered around a table of reconciliation and transformation. We are not going anywhere.
We're eager to be in conversation with others across the church who are similarly committed to offering a home for all God's children.
We have committed ourselves to working in coalition with others to find a way to live our faith with integrity in the wake of the recent, very devastating General Conference. The leadership of the Western jurisdiction is set to meet in 2 weeks. Between now and then, we will continue to pray, to listen earnestly, and to discern where the Spirit is leading.
I invite you, visit westernjurisdictionumc.org to join us in the dialogue, the search, and the invitation as we continue to move forward together to embrace the life abundant that God has intended for each of us.
So this video does not come from our jurisdiction. Our bishops have not spoken as a group yet and presented theirs. The Western jurisdiction is where part of the challenge that we as a United Methodist Church are seeing the fight. Some areas of the church does not want to be open and inclusive in certain ways. And other areas of the church wants to be fully open and inclusive. This congregation is no different than those groups. We have folks across the spectrum in our community here at the church. Just as the Western jurisdiction is having conversations, so will the churches of Michigan and of our North Central jurisdiction. As we have those conversations, as we vision what is it going to be for us to live out our call in ministry and faith, I urge you not to jump off the train. One, if you jump off a moving train, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get hurt or worse. We stay on the train, we stay in the dialogue, and we continue to be part of the visioning for what it is to be a church. United Methodism for a long time has been a big tent where our focus is Jesus Christ and our focus is mission in the world as we live out what it means to be a faithful disciple of Jesus Christ. When we have Bible studies, do you all agree on the text? We have a book study. Do you all agree on it? When we watch a movie or a TV show, do we all get the same thing out of it? No. Because we come from different perspectives. We come from different walks in the journey of our life. But we are all in the story together. So the Western jurisdiction shared part of their story, and they had all these chalices. Well, I've got my chalices, part of them. Some of them I chose not to bring out for different reasons. But they can help to share a story. Some of you ask, which ones did I choose not to bring out, for what reason? A couple of them I can't remember where exactly they came from. And then there are a couple that relate to my ordination from the corporate, i.e. the cabinet and the board of ministry. I chose not to bring those out. And I chose not to bring them out particularly from my personal perspective and my personal irritation with how LGBTQI individuals are talked about and treated within the life of the church. And two of my friends were subjects of our judicial council, that's the church Supreme Court, at the beginning of General Conference. But what do you see in a story? I start with the one that's most important to me, and that is this one. I like purple, but that's not the reason it's important. This chalice has been with me since way before I thought about answering a call to ministry. This is my grandmother's. My grandmother is the woman who brought me to the place of faith. She was a Free Methodist. Free Methodists are a little more conservative. They're a little more into the holiness code. The services are often not very exciting, and then all of a sudden the little bit of excitement comes out, and then you am I at a Methodist or a Pentecostal? Sometimes it comes rolling out, but It's the place of the founding of my faith and where I participated in the life of the church from being an infant right on up to being a teenager when I left the church. But this is the founding of my story. Not everything's a chalice. Sometimes there's a plate. And there's a plate here that is of the church that extended my faith. For a while I attended two churches. That Free Methodist church that was just down the hill from my grandmother's house. Remember, sometimes I've told the story about my great-grandmother doing in Grandma's rubbery chicken. That church was just down the hill. You could see it. Then you go around the corner and up a hill was this church. A one-room church that we canceled services because there was ice on the pews. Or there was so much ice we couldn't chisel the front doors open. It was that kind of church. No indoor plumbing. There's a little outhouse over here on the side, but we didn't put it in the picture. This church is where I gained an understanding of grace. Where I really gained a love for Jesus Christ, for mission, and for what it is to be a faithful follower of Jesus Christ. It was diverse, it was eclectic, it was the same kind of character, but smaller than what we have at St. Luke's. This place taught me how to move beyond barriers and how to grow in love with God's people, even those I can't stand. It gave me a place of faith. Then this one. It's really not supposed to be purple. It should be maroon and gold. Has Warner Hall, Central Michigan University. Here, on this campus, is where God spoke to me. And where I received that call to go into ministry. Here on this campus, there was an even more eclectic and strange bunch of folks called the Wesley Foundation. United Methodist Campus Ministry calls us into being, calls us into a place of faith. And here on this campus, I met people of all walks of life. I also met this guy that used to sell chocolate. And then I think he lost it a little bit. Became one of those sidewalk, screaming, Westboro type signboard preachers. Repent or perish. He had 22 things on his list that you're going to hell if you're one of those. And let's see, I'm trying to look to see who fits that. Since you're a leader in the church and you're a woman, you might be in trouble. All of those of you who voted for Hillary Clinton, you're on the hell train by his list. Those of you who've come to the wine table, you're on the list. You work in certain industries, and I'm not talking about the oldest industry in the world, but some of the others, you're on the list. His list included most of us. I couldn't stand the man. But I found a way and an opportunity to engage him in conversation and find out more about his story. Do you know, I left Central Michigan University in the summer of 2000, and the man is still on my prayer list, and I check in with him when I can. This one next. In 1999, I was on a student forum planning committee, and this was my first opportunity in really doing a worship service that was ecumenical. It was also a first opportunity of seeing how a whole denomination can be spiteful. Charlie, this is when I experienced Western North Carolina, Nashville. This chalice, which we're going to use today, was used at Celebrate 3, an ecumenical gathering of 1,300 college students from around the country and some from Russia and other places in the world. Methodists, Lutherans, Congregationalists, disciples. But no Southern Baptists. In the spiteful nature, that church told their campus kids they could not attend because our keynote speaker was Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And Desmond Tutu dared to say to people in South Africa, you must love all your children. And not only was he part of Truth and Reconciliation, but he was part of helping that country to get beyond apartheid, beyond isms, and enshrined in their constitution, which is far more progressive than ours, is protections for people regardless of their sexuality. So the Southern Baptists boycotted our conference. Charlie, it was at Ridgecrest Center. And if you know North Carolina, Ridgecrest Center, it is owned and operated by the Children's Ministries Division of the Southern Baptist Church. So they boycotted us. But the people who worked at that place showed God's love regardless of what their denomination said. This chalice, I won't pick it up because I will spill it, comes from Israel as well as this one. And that's where God spoke to me again. God's love is open to all. This chalice represents a group of individuals and conferences that we need to pray for and to pray with. Because there is a deep division in the church. And a lot of that division comes from Russia, which I don't have a chalice from, and Eastern Europe. And it comes with a deep division in understanding about who's welcome in the church and how we shall speak about God's children. This chalice comes from Ghana. And right now, the United Methodists are struggling between our interpretation and how we relate to one another, particularly between the Americans and the Africans. The African Central Conferences represent 260 delegates, and in Africa, it's a far more conservative group, but it includes progressives. And there is a deep fear in that set of central conferences. If we move the church to the left, the church will die in Africa. So when we have this vote at General Conference and the results point against inclusion, it was a 56 vote margin between the yes and the no. The church is deeply divided. But what was it like when Jesus was ministering? The synagogues and the temples were deeply divided. They were not all of one mind. And what did Jesus say? Jesus didn't say, "You progressives, come to the table. You traditionalists, go home." Jesus didn't say, "You traditionalists, come to the table. You progressives, go home." Jesus said, "Come. Come to the table and be fed. Come to the table and commune. Come to the table and receive the love, and then go out and share the love." We cannot deny the elephant that is in the room being United Methodism. We are deeply divided around our understanding of human sexuality. But may we be of one accord in our understanding of Jesus Christ. Do you affirm that He is Lord? Do you affirm that His grace is there for you? If you do, come to the table. And then go out and help affirm for somebody else that God's love is there for them.